MetaQuest, Lakers versus Celtics at 8:30 Eastern, Saturday on ABC, home of the NBA Finals.
True story. In college basketball, statement games can make or break championship resumes.
This is not a final exam. This is a midterm.
First is the top.
This is Paul Feinbaum. That'll do it for me today. Coming up next, The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
This hour is brought to you by Woody Anderson Ford, Alabama's F-150 Superstore. Welcome to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977.
That's how I roll. And I'm not going to drink and drive anymore.
That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Wes and Steve.
Away we go here on a Thursday. I am in Rome, Georgia, walking you up to UAH Charger basketball for the final time. And what I mean by that, Shorter University just announced earlier today that they are flipping conferences beginning next year, heading to the Conference of the Carolinas as they are bowing out of the Gulf South Conference, staying Division II, but heading over to the Conference of the Carolinas. Back in the studios of 97.7 ESPN The Zone, of course, is Wes Neighbors, and Jordy Arman is also in the house as well here on a Thursday. And, of course, it's brought to you by Environmental Comfort Systems. You can check them out at envcomfort.com. Boys, how we doing?
Hanging in here like a biscuit, hair in a biscuit. What are you doing, Steve?
I just got through with my science fair project as I dragged 150 feet worth of cable. I did get some help with Scott Tyson, who was kind enough to help me. 150 feet worth of cable.
Cable in one hand, cheeseburger in the other.
Well, you needed to work off all that food, Steve. You and Scott did.
That was not a cheeseburger we worked off.
Not at all.
Brandon was kind enough to sport us to a delightful lunch in the downtown square here in Rome. And there is a rumor that Scott Tyson told me that he wanted to swing by and give us some more food coming up at halftime.
I'm sure.
Tapeworm can make room, brother.
Yeah, there's no question. I haven't seen anything like it.
So, yes, I am well fed at the moment.
I know why he grew up with cows.
Incidentally, a scoreboard update for you since it's in front of me. The UAH women lead it here at Shorter, 21-14, 5.5 minutes left to go before halftime. The men are slated to start at 6:30 Central Time, so we'll have that action for you right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Drew was in Tuscaloosa last night, and we're going to talk to somebody else who was also in Tuscaloosa last night, as Richard Hendricks is going to join us in about 15 minutes' time. Drew, what was your take on what you saw in T-Town last night?
Well, it was a gritty win, Steve. It wasn't their best performance. They certainly came out a little flat. They trailed until the second half, until Rylan Griffin's corner three gave them a 48-46 lead. Brandon Miller gave them a lead 53-51 with another three, but both of those were short-lived. Alabama was able to finally pull away in the last 4 to 5 minutes, making some free throws, a mid-range jumper by big basket by Javon Quinterly, who led the team in scoring with 14. They were 5 from 28 from three, so the threes wouldn't drop. A lot of them were good looks, especially from Noah Clowney, who I believe was 0 for 5. So they just couldn't get them to drop last night. They did a good job on the trio of Brandon Miller, Mark Sears, and Clowney. Clowney ended up, though, with 13. So did Miller, but they had to work for everything they had, and it was big for Javon Quinterly to have a good game offensively. And then they got some key bench contributions, and I asked Nate Oates about that. Noah Gurley did some little things really well. He was able to get a key offensive rebound late, a key feed to Clowney that got him to the free throw line, and Clowney made both shots. And then he made a couple nice defensive plays late. And then Rylan Griffin, he's just not afraid He's as good a pure shooter as I think there is in the Southeastern Conference. He made that big three from the corner. The basket before that, he made a runner in the lane, so he had a little 5-point run. So he did a nice job. And if you're going to win a championship, I remember 3 years ago, to clinch the SEC, Alabama had to win an ugly game in Starkville, and James Rojas had to make a three from the corner to seal it. And if you had told anybody before the game that James Rojas was going to have to make the deciding basket, not a lot of people would have thought that. So they're a very deep squad. They defended pretty well, especially the second half. They got on the glass in the second half because they were being out-rebounded in the first. But it was an ugly win, but it was a good one. So we'll see if they learn from it, because now they're having to adjust to being – they were hunting people early. Now they're the hunted. They're number 2 in the country. A lot of people have them circled. And so it's going to be interesting when they go to OU in Norman on Saturday for the SEC Big 12 Challenge. Porter Moser likes to slow the pace like Chris Jans did last night, and we'll see how Alabama reacts going forward.
Well, the other major story, heard quite a bit of it on Feinbaum's program, this being the 40th anniversary to the day of the death of Coach Paul Bear Bryant. It is hard to believe, Wes, it's been 40 years.
It's unbelievable, really. We'll never forget that day and what happened after with the funeral and the procession between the church to the Birmingham to the where they laid him to rest, and it was incredible. The people on the highway and all the truckers and everybody was stopped from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham the whole way, and every overpass was filled with people. I'll never forget it.
Unreal to think about that being 40 years ago. For those old enough to remember that, it was even growing up in the state of Georgia, I had some neighbors that were big Bama fans, and they would always they had it wasn't just the Bryant room that they had, it was the Alabama/Bryant room. It was amazing the kind of love that so many people had for Coach Bryant.
Well, he did so many good things that nobody will ever know about. I mean, there's a lot he did that everybody does know about it, but he was, he's a lot like Coach Saban. Coach Saban's given a lot of his wealth away, and I'm still to this day will never. I mean, when Coach Bryant walked in the room, it's the air sucked out of it. I've never felt that before, since. I happened to be in the mall one time when he came in the mall, and it's like everybody turned around all at once as he entered the mall. Just as like he had a presence unlike anything I've ever felt in my life.
So if you'd certainly like to react to that, you can do so. Richard Hendricks going to join us in about 10 minutes' time. So there was a lot of reaction from what I heard. Is his ultimate lasting legacy, you think, of what he did to his players that played for him, with the kids being able to, their kids being able to go to college for free? I mean, I can't think of a better and fitting legacy than knowing what he did for so many of his players' kids.
Yeah, that's just one of the things him and his family have done. I mean, it's incredible the things the money they've given for the state and the different things. I think Coach Bryant's legacy is that he that everybody he coached, he brought up to learn to be successful in life, and that doesn't mean you're successful every day. And that's what I think what he really taught you, is that when things don't look good and maybe things aren't going right, is you bow up and you fight through. You to me, it was like being in the military without having to go to war. I mean, you went to war, but nobody died, right? It's that same camaraderie when you're beside somebody that he taught us. I mean, anybody who played for him has that same feeling. He doesn't, and there wasn't such thing to him as colors, and the people who played for him were players. It didn't matter. I mean, everybody was a team, and everybody was not treated the same, but treated in a way where he felt that you could get the best out of you. And that's why he's so revered by his players.
That's well said right there, Wes. We are creeping up on National Signing Day, the other National Signing Day. We are going to talk some recruiting with Drew DeArmond, but let's go ahead and take our first time out. Richard Hendricks from the Crimson Tide Sports Network. He'll join us next.
You're listening to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Rambo Marine in Hazel Green is your one-stop shop for all things boating. Whether you are ready to surf with the newest Malibu wake boat or cruise on a Cobalt or Barletta pontoon, we have a boat ready for you and your family. Rambo Marine provides exceptional service second to none, so that you are ready to hit the water in no time. Stop by Rambo Marine today. We know boats.
Hi, Bobby White back again for Woody Anderson Ford, inviting you to kickstart the new year with 0% interest. We've got financing as low as 0% APR for 36 months on 2022 and 2023 models of F-150, Explorer, Edge, and Escape. Plus, there's an extra $1,000 bonus cash on F-150 XLT. Come on in to Woody Anderson Ford today and choose from over 100 F-150s and nearly 50 Explorers. I bet you can find exactly what you're looking for. And we've also got longer-term financing as low as 4.9% for up to 72 months. It's available on 2022 F-150, Explorer, Edge, Escape, and Mustang. With your good credit, these offers are through Ford Motor Credit. Offers end January 31st. At Woody Anderson Ford, we'd be glad to walk you through the online ordering, too. Plus, you'll get $1,000 bonus cash. Come see us and let's get 2023 off to a great start. Woody Anderson Ford, Jordan at Sparkman. Hope to see you soon.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Tom Abraham here from my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
AVIQ. Who is AVIQ? AVIQ is audiovisual the intelligent way, where we put our IQ to work for your AV needs. With more than 100 years combined experience in audio, video, and automation, our team of experts is dedicated to one thing, helping you discover technological solutions that make your home special. Once you experience a game or a movie on one of our state-of-the-art home theater systems, you may never leave the house again. AVIQ can build the entire system for you or provide the quality components if you're a do-it-yourselfer. But AVIQ is more than just home theater and state-of-the-art sound systems. We offer a variety of control options for home technology. Energy efficiency, heightened security, and improved quality of life are all attainable through the automation of home systems. Intuitive and user-friendly control is our main priority in designing a system that meets your needs. Don't just take our word for it. You need to see it to believe it. Come visit us at our state-of-the-art showroom on University, just east of Jim and Nick's, across from AT&T, or visit AVIQHSV.com.
This segment of The Drive is brought to you by Woody Anderson Ford, located online at WoodyAndersonFord.com with 2 locations, Hughes Road in Madison and Jordan Lane in Huntsville.
Georgia getting ready for Charger basketball. Incidentally, halftime score for you as the women lead it here at Shorter, 34-21, as we're a little over an hour away from tip-off between UAH and Shorter, as the Hawks and Chargers square off. Wes Neighbors and Drew DeArmond are in the studios of 97.7 ESPN The Zone. A very, I think, productive night for Nate Oates' squad last night as they were tested by Mississippi State, and they certainly made fewer mistakes than their first meeting in Starkville, and obviously made a few more free throws as well, and played about as well as they could. So let's talk to the man who is on the call, as Richard Hendricks from the Crimson Tide Sports Network is kind enough to join us. How are you, sir?
Doing great. How are you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell me the atmosphere in the building last night to putting the headset on. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it was a lot of fun. It wasn't my first time doing radio. I've actually had a little bit of opportunity to do some radio for Alabama women's basketball going alongside Roger Hoover. But I was very comfortable to be alongside Chris Stewart. The atmosphere was electric in Coleman Coliseum last night, and it was really cool to be on the sidelines.
When I was watching that game, it seemed like Mississippi State was trying to out-physical Alabama and kind of get them off their game a little bit, and was successful doing that the first half.
They definitely did. They were more aggressive and played with a little bit more energy and enthusiasm, particularly early on. I think a lot of it has to do with their personnel and their style of play. They're not a really good team as far as shooting is concerned. They've struggled to score the basket, particularly from outside. So they had a really good game plan for Alabama. They made sure to slow the pace down and make it a grind, and they almost pulled it out. But fortunately for Alabama, they were able to weather the storm and come up with a win.
When I was watching the game, it seemed like to me Clowney looked tired. He just looked like he didn't have he wasn't 100%.
Well, I'll tell you, Mississippi State, you have to give credit to him. Tolu Smith, you're talking about 6'11", 260 pounds, as well as Will McNair Jr. They're about similar size. They were putting a lot of a pounding on the Alabama players in the interior, particularly early on in the game, getting off to the lead with offensive rebounds and putbacks. But sitting sideline, you could just see, the physicality and the physiques that Mississippi State had. Now, Alabama has a lot more speed and more skill, quite frankly. But Noah Clowney, being a freshman, he really stepped up and made some big-time baskets and tough rebounds when Alabama needed it most in the clutch.
A lot's been said about Brandon Miller. From your standpoint, how good is Brandon Miller, Richard?
Well, I actually, and it's not necessarily a hot take, but I tweeted this out early in November, I believe, maybe December. And I said Brandon Miller might be the best player to ever play at Alabama. And I said that obviously not just to, drive something here. I played there and obviously have utmost respect for all of the players who have been to the program. But when you talk about 6'9", the versatility he has, he plays with a poise and a maturity that's much older than his age, averaging around 20 points and pulling close to 9 rebounds a game, and has your team as the number 2 team in the country. He definitely has to be in consideration for one of the best players to ever play at the University of Alabama. Talented, outside shooting stroke is phenomenal. He gets it off the bounce. He has to catch and shoot. He can get all the way to the cup. There's still some areas of his game that he can definitely improve, but that will come with age. Defensively, with his size and length, he has the capabilities to really be a shutdown defender and a rim protector as well, guarding multiple positions. An area he could definitely add to the game would be his ability to finish better at the cup and the mid-range game. If he can add those facets, it's a complete game. I've even seen a little bit of good court vision and passing, so it's been a joy to sit there and watch him on the sideline. The sky's the limit for him, and I tell you, if you're an Alabama fan, you better get and watch him soon because he's not going to be on campus for long.
So, Richard, when I watch him, at times though, he seems to not get involved in the offense. Like it might be on purpose because I guess they got his guys not helping, so he goes over in the corner. Well, at times that he seems to be out of the game. Right.
Well, he definitely lets the game come to him, but with his ability to shoot with so much accuracy from deep, he can run off a couple of baskets in a flurry and be right back in the game. I remember if you look back on the Arkansas game on the road, he teed up 2 threes back to back, and it was actually the third of 3 by the whole team. And it really just made the run that Alabama needs. So he can really get heated up really quickly. But I think it's a lot of maturity that you can see that he plays within the flow of the offense and within the team concept. A lot of times when you have players who are averaging big numbers, you can see that they're pressing to try to reach their average. He lets the game come to him, and it always seems to do just that.
Well, Richard, Drew DeArmond here, man, and great to speak with you again. I do want to tell you that your folks back here in North Alabama are proud of you. I know my cousin Janet Latham listens all the time, watches you on television. She's very proud of your broadcasting career now that you've moved on from a long professional career overseas. But good call last night, and I wanted to ask you, and I asked this of Nate Oates last night in the press conference because I felt like this one was a gritty one for Alabama. They didn't play their best, but this is as deep a team as I've seen, and I thought some of the key sequences for Alabama getting the win was the aggression of Rylan Griffin. He had a 5-point run where he hit the little runner, and then the 3 that finally got him over the hump, got him the first lead of the game. And then I thought Noah Gurley did some key things defensively, on offensive rebound, a key pass to Clowney late, to some things you may not see in the box score to help win the game.
You're exactly right, and that shows, as you mentioned, the depth of this team. But for me, as a former player and now as an analyst watching the game, the maturity of these teams. I mean, this is a different age of basketball. You're talking about the transfer portal, NIL age, where players are transferring with their in the middle of the season because they're disappointed with their roles on the team. But if you look at this team, you mentioned a guy like Rylan Griffin. He has some games where he plays sparingly. He was able to check into the game last night, hit a big runner at the end of a shot clock on a broken play, which kind of kept Alabama at bay, and then freed himself up to knock down the go-ahead 3 in the corner, which they needed. But you also look at Nick Pringle. Some games, because of personnel reasons, does not get a lot of playing time. Last night, against a much more tougher interior team in Mississippi State, he stepped in with some big performances early on in the game, setting the tone. And as you mentioned, Noah Gurley didn't do anything in the scoring column, but some critical rebounds and some good team plays down the clutch. If you're going to be a championship ball team, you have to have players that accept their roles and are really good in their role. And Alabama seems to have that on their roster. It's not just stars. It's a complete roster. And head coach Nate Oates really has his team rolling and responding the way you should on a winning basketball team.
Talking with Richard Hendricks right now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, and we've mentioned a little bit of the depth here, but I'm also hearing from Coach Oates of how much the players are pushing each other. So from a player's standpoint, how important is that just to get better this time of year, not necessarily coach to player, but player to player?
Well, if you're ever on a team when you have friendly competition, it's a joy because you have everyone who has the same goal in mind, which is to win a championship. And you're pushing each other through healthy competition to be as best as you can be individually, but as well as a team. Now, obviously, I'm not in the practices. I don't know what the schemes and things are to the team. I only get a chance to watch them and make my assessment as I watch. But it seems that they all have really, really good chemistry. They're playing for the name on the front of the jersey. And they understand that they have an opportunity to make history at the University of Alabama and do something special. To see college athletes do that and have that type of mentality, for me, it warms my heart because that's what college basketball is about. And Alabama has an opportunity this season with a talented roster to do something special for the team, the program, and ultimately when you do that, it benefits the individual. So it's a lot of fun to watch, and I can see it in the team from afar.
Absolutely, and Richard, with this group, certainly talk about it as your experience as a player. When you're playing, and of course it's an 18-game schedule now. You don't play everybody twice, but it's Brian Hodgson. I saw some video of him his message to the squad before the game was it's very hard to sweep someone because they play you one time, they get a good feel of what you're running, and we saw Mississippi State make some adjustments last night. They certainly tried to control the pace more than they did at the Hump in Starkville. Plus, they'd seen Brandon Miller live and in person one time before. How difficult is it to sweep a team? And then talk about making adjustments when you play a team a second time.
Oh, it's extremely difficult. In the SEC, there's never an easy game. And, Mississippi State has always been a rivalry game for Alabama basketball and always a tough one. They play a style of play that, regardless of the coach, they've always been a tough-minded team. So, they're prideful. They're on scholarship. They're top players and really good players. They lost in the opener in the SEC play to Alabama, and now here you go on the road after you've been struggling in the conference play, and you got the number 2 team in the country, with a chance to do something and try to get your season back on track. So it's very hard. The mentality standpoint, when you're a top-ranked team, you can get a little bit complacent. You also take the factors of it's a weeknight game. The home team, in my opinion, when I was in school, had a slight disadvantage, even though you're at home, but you're going to class all day. And the other team has the advantage of resting and being prepared, and you play the night game and have a little bit more of that. So it's a challenge to sweep a team, but Alabama showed their resiliency last night because, you not play the second time you play a team, it won't be the same game that you had the first time around. And they found that out last night, and I think they were fortunate and also thankful to get the win and learn from that situation and continue to grow as the season goes on, as they'll potentially play other teams for a second time.
Well, and on the subject of the league itself, Richard, we saw Texas A&M going in and beating Auburn last night at home, which is no easy task. But Kentucky certainly seems like they have bounced back after losing to South Carolina at home. Tell me what you think of the conference as a whole, from Alabama to really what you saw with Mississippi State. That's a one-win team in conference play in Mississippi State from last night.
Well, there's not going to be an easy game, and throughout the whole conference, I do think Alabama and Tennessee have kind of separated themselves as the class of the conference. Tennessee dropped one not too far back with Kentucky coming in on the road, but Kentucky is a very, very talented team. So to speak that they have a chance to try to get back in it, as I mentioned, you have Alabama and Tennessee at the top, but the rest of the teams, they're kind of falling to the middle of the pack. Now, Texas A&M, last season, finished the season really, really strong in the NIT, returns a lot of players. They understand the culture that Coach Buzz Williams has with the Aggies, struggled in the non-conference. But what they're doing in conference play is not a surprise to me because they have a really talented team. A big win that they had on the road last night at Auburn. And Auburn, of course, Bruce Pearl always does a tremendous job and has his team in the mix. I think they were flying a little bit under the radar. They lost some non-conference games, but they were still in the mix, being at the top, near the top of the standings in the conference. But struggled last night. It's been a few games that they've given up some big scoring performance from the guard position. They're going to have to shore up the consistency from the guard play and just understand that this is not the same team that they had last year. I think last year Auburn's guards benefited from the fact of having arguably the best front line in college basketball with Walker, Kessler, and Jabari Smith behind you, blocking shots, changing shots, and setting a different tone. So Auburn has a little bit of work to do, but as I mentioned before, Bruce Pearl has proven in this league, and they're defending conference champs, so you don't want to count them out, but every single game is going to be tough.
One team that's really impressed me, and they struggled out of the gate, but here recently, Vanderbilt is a team that's 10-10, but 3-4 in conference play, and it feels like they're starting to click a little bit.
They're starting to, as they got the big win on the road at Georgia, and Georgia, surprisingly, to many people, started off the league hot, but with Mike White coming over from Florida, he has experience in the league and understands how to win games. So he came over and obviously has Georgia trending in the right direction. But definitely, as you mentioned, Vanderbilt was playing some good ball. They gave Alabama a test. I was at the arena at Memorial Gym at Nashville when Alabama played on the road, and they gave Alabama a good challenge. But they've been down with some injuries with some of their better players, and some of the senior and veteran leadership hasn't been playing up to their ability. But they're definitely a talented team, and if they can put things together, as you can see when they went on the road on Georgia, they can give anyone a run for their money, and Coach Jerry Stackhouse has been able to dial some things up as of late. So don't count them out.
One other question about Alabama. If from just what you've seen, what is that next step? Well, what would make Alabama even better moving forward as we are approaching March?
Well, they're obviously immensely talented and well coached. They have a lot of depth and player versatility on the roster and a lot of maturity. For me, and a lot of it might be just a personal preference of how I view the game or whatnot, but Alabama is known with Coach Oates' analytic approach to the game. They're going to shoot a lot of threes, particularly early in the shot clock. They like to get to the basket, get a piece of the paint, kick it out, and or just shoot a layup or a three-pointer. Defensively, they can lock a team up, and as you can see, they can win a grind-out game and not shoot the ball well. But I do think at some point in the season, there might become a time where you have to be able to make some tough baskets in the mid-range or maybe one-on-one situations in the low post. They have the talent. They obviously have the capabilities from a staff to scheme things up to get people isolated or put in the proper position to get those tough buckets. But when you see teams do like what Mississippi State did last night, running a 1-3-1 zone, at many times also three-quarter court pressure, trying to run Alabama off the three-point line and obviously having the size to protect the rim, teams with that particular personnel base can make things challenging for Alabama shooting shots. But if you can figure out a way to make some shots in the soft spots, and those are going to be in the mid-range, the low post area and whatnot, then you can definitely soften up the defense, which will allow your transition game and your space game to flourish a little more. You saw last night Javon Quinterly hit a big mid-range bucket in the clutch, but he was wide open. You know, when you get past that line on the perimeter, there's an opportunity to get some shots there. If Alabama can capitalize on those, I think as they move forward in the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament, that might be a critical component that might be needed.
And Richard, I know, with the SEC, I was kind of looking at the standings. It looks like Kentucky's figuring things out. They got off to the slow start in conference play, but I thought it was a big bounce back. Of course, Kobe Brown was back in the lineup. They win at Ole Miss by 12. I think Dennis Gates in Missouri has been the biggest surprise in the league. I still think the SEC's 5, 6, maybe 7 teams if Arkansas turns it around and Missouri can keep winning. But is Missouri your biggest surprise? Who's been your biggest surprise in the conference?
No, I'm with you. I do think it has been Missouri. I think Dennis Gates coming in from Cleveland State, a lot of people in this region didn't know a lot about him. I had a chance to speak to him in Birmingham at SEC Media Days, and he came across as a very confident coach. And as I follow him, he seems to really know how to motivate his team and get them in a position to play. And they play at times when you watch their style with so much pressure defense and their home court advantage that they have. It looks almost at times they almost have 6 players out there on the court the way they get after. He was able to make sure he recruited the home team and got Kobe Brown,
right.
Back on the roster and motivated, and he's really upped his game from last season. But also bringing in several players from the transfer portal with some familiarity to him. He's been able to definitely catch the league by surprise, and I think now that people see what he can do, they're going to be watching out for the Missouri Tigers.
Richard, thank you so much for hopping on with us. Really enjoyed the broadcast last night and putting up with Chris Stewart. I know how tall of a task that is from personal experience.
We had a good time. I enjoyed it, and thank y'all for having me.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Richard Hendricks joining us from the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Is Alabama the only undefeated team in SEC play, followed by Tennessee with 1 loss, and Texas A&M stays with 1 loss. Vols are 7-1, Texas A&M 6-1. Auburn trailed most of the night last night, and I can only imagine what kind of eye roll I'm getting while I say that from Jackson Love, our esteemed Auburn alum, as that 28-game home winning streak went by the wayside. What happened to your squad, Jackson?
No eye roll. I mean, you're completely right. It was ugly.
And you got off to the hot start, 10-2, then the timeout.
You know what happened, Jackson? You got the Moulton curse. Yeah. He's bragging. When he starts bragging on him, that's what happens.
Yep, that combined with what timeouts typically do to Auburn, it was unstoppable.
So, what have y'all done to Bruce Pearl? He doesn't look the same.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think we've done to him?
I think you bought him smaller shirts. You need to get him some bigger shirts.
Put him back in the suit so he can sweat through them again?
I think that. Yeah, I mean, I think that kept
this is
him
about
fit.
his comfort, Wes.
Well, I mean, you see the way his arms are kind of. Can he move his arms? His shirt is so tight.
Well, I guess he and Hugh
the medium
are gonna compare notes.
No, I'm serious. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he looked better in a tie, even though he was sweating. You know, I mean, he was sweating. It was.
The coaching has changed.
It looks like it might have been kind of like when you go in the sauna, then you quit going, you start retaining water. He's been retaining a lot of water.
Well, it's funny though. Nate Oates is like one of the few coaches now that's wearing a sport coat. All these coaches now and I'm actually digging what all these other coaches are doing. Everybody's wearing pullovers, man. Everybody. I mean, you look at it. Duke wearing pullovers.
You started it, Drew. Drew started with pullover.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
I mean, why do you got to wear a suit?
Yeah, exactly. I've always said that. It's a freaking basketball game. It's not an opera.
I mean, if you want to, then sure, go for it. But it shouldn't be an expectation.
Except at Memorial Gymnasium, because it has that benches on the end type of field, and the stage is elevated, and it was Dale Brown's favorite place to go.
I mean, they're even finally getting the clue in the NBA. I see all these guys wearing pullovers. Finally, instead of having to go to get these Armani suits that Pat Riley got.
I thought he looked good in his Armani suit.
He did, but good God Almighty.
Yeah.
You mentioned Missouri right there in our Q&A there with Richard Hendricks, but is there a mid-level team? I mentioned Vanderbilt 3-4. Drew, tell me what you think about Arkansas bouncing back a little bit. They're usually a late surging squad. Of the teams that are at least 500, Missouri's 4-4, Georgia's 3-4. I don't see them. I see them kind of fading.
Georgia's bubble has bursted. At least I
agree.
saw them getting hammered last night by Tennessee. I think Eric Walmart can turn it around. If they can get to 10 wins and get to 10-8 in the conference, they're
3-5 right now.
They could probably sneak in.
Are they getting any of their guys back, Drew?
Well, that depends on the NIL payments for Nick Smith. If he decides he wants to play for Eric Musselman, which I heard he doesn't really like him all that much, and I can't really blame him. But if he if Nick comes back, and he's a big time player, we're talking a dude that's going to go in the top 5 to 8 picks in the draft. If he comes back, he would really be their best player. So if he's back at February the 1st, then Arkansas could become the hottest team in the league. So they could go on like a Texas A&M type run, and if they haven't dug too big of a hole, yes, they can still easily get back in this NCAA tournament race. And I'll say this too. If he's back for the rematch with Alabama, buckle up. Because that'll be – I'll say this. I hope to be there. There'll probably be an NBA scout from every team, considering that he would be going up against Brandon Miller. So that and Anthony Black. But, again, it would be NBA scouts all over the place. So I think Arkansas is dangerous if Nick comes back.
Is there any one-loss team that might be dangerous? Your one-loss team, or excuse me, your one-win teams in SEC play, South Carolina, Mississippi State, LSU, and Ole Miss. Do any of those teams you think have a shot at catching some fire when we flip it to February?
Not exactly. I don't think any of them are going to be postseason contenders. Mississippi State could give some people some problems like they did Alabama with Chris Jans and his defensive style of play and Tulu Smith. But their guards are inconsistent. Deshaun Davis was really good last night, but they've been bad for most of the season. I think South Kakalaki in that game over Kentucky, Calipari is going to take that to his grave like Steve Spurrier will with 2 losses to Mike DeBose in the same season.
Let's squeeze in a couple of calls before we take our second time out. Rebecca is on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. How are you, Rebecca?
I am just doing great. I just called in to make a comment, to talk about a comment that Drew made a while ago. In case you don't know, this is his mama.
Here we go.
We get a lot of questions for you.
Dude,
Well, I think that Nate Oates looked so professional and all in his jacket. Did you ever see Paul Bear Bryant a football game without being dressed?
No.
That's right.
And all the players wore suits to and from the games.
And they still do that.
That's right.
They go to the games in a suit, and they leave in sweat, which I guess,
yeah.
It makes them look very elite team.
Well, you're going on a business trip.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, I just had to comment on Drew.
Thanks, Mom.
In fact, I got a story about that. So
now we're gonna have a good story.
Yeah. So in Coach Bryant's last year, they kind of got where you didn't have to wear your tie to the pregame meal.
Right.
Alabama's playing number 1 Penn State in Birmingham with Coach Paul, and Coach Bryant comes down and looks around, and I think he did this on purpose, is because he kind of felt the team was tight. So all of a sudden he throws a fit, saying, "Where's everybody's tie? What we have no class, we have no pride about ourselves. Where's our, and all of a sudden you have people grabbing ties at anybody out in the hall. I mean, the waiters, they're borrowing bow ties for the waiters. So, this guy might have a green suit on with a black bow tie. You know what I'm saying? It was nuts. Nobody matched. Everybody was kind of giggling.
And it relaxed everybody.
Exactly. But anyway, yeah.
And every one of them remembered.
Oh, I guarantee everybody, there's 10 people telling that story right now. Everybody was scared to death at first, I'll tell you that.
Okay, y'all have a good night.
And the coaches, the coaches look like, how you're maybe in a spot you're not supposed to be and you look around. That's the way the coaches were 24/7. They were always looking and kind of nervous.
Is Drew's mom gone?
Yes, I think she hung up.
She needs to call more.
Yeah. I knew
I
it
have
was
so
Rebecca
many
that
questions. I have so many questions.
We have to get her on the show. We're going to have her on our show.
I'm for that.
Yeah,
I'm for that. No doubt about it. It's
we're going to have her right after we do the inner tube race between you and Drew.
Well, she's a photographer, so you'll probably want her there.
Yeah, she'll be in the back of the boat.
Can't wait.
Yeah, sitting back
right
next to the rescue squad.
Oh yeah, we're gonna need a hazmat. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Rescue squad.
I will not get on that thing without seeing an EMS crew.
Or as we said on the show this morning, as the snowman would say, and the snowman is coming through. Hold on to your ass, Fred.
Well, we did make our way here to. For those of you that did tune in this morning and that were curious which route I took, I did go through Somerville and Mentone like I normally do.
Oh, I saw some of the Tokyo Drift via Scott Tyson. Tight curves there, Moulton.
Where did he post that on Facebook or Twitter?
Both, I think.
Did he really? Of course he did. There was a couple of times on some sharp curves that he decided to pull out the old phone and throw up a video. So, yeah, feel free to enjoy that from earlier today. And I am in Rome, Georgia. A scoreboard update for you as the UAH women are having right now no problems against the shorter women. 51-39. No, it's not a short joke. That's their name, Shorter University, as the Chargers lead it over the Hawks 51-39. Under a minute left to go in the third quarter there. We are less than an hour from the UAH men taking over the airwaves. We're going to transition over to talking some recruiting on the other side as we're just, how far away is it? It's less than a week away from the second National Signing Day coming up on February the 1st. So let's take our final timeout here in hour number one. We'll talk some recruiting on the other side. Feel free to call in.
You're listening to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
There's something most of us fail to think about until something goes wrong, and that's our home's heating system. Hello, friends. My name is Rick Smith.
And I'm Cooper Constant here with Environmental Comfort Systems.
Heating and air conditioning failures can be one of the most inconvenient and worrisome events in any homeowner's life.
That's why we created our Comfort Care Club. Our members receive 2 scheduled maintenance visits per year, working around your schedule and not ours.
Regularly scheduled maintenance on your home's heating system helps us find small issues before they become bigger and more expensive issues.
Even if you didn't purchase your system from us, our team of well-trained technicians can service and maintain your system, and we're just a quick phone call away. Becoming a Comfort Care Club member is as simple as calling us or visiting our website.
Give us a call today. Environmental Comfort Systems, your independently owned American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. You can also visit us online at envcomfort.com.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Our customers trust us not only to find the right hardware, but to advise them on the technology that makes them more efficient.
My Next Level team researches and discovers real solutions. Check-in software, HR, digital signature, and workflow software. It saves you money immediately. We hold your hand and stay with you through the transition.
We're taking our customers to the next level in business process automation.
Forgiveness. Wow, what a word. What a gift. All of us have done things in our lives that we regret. All of us have done things that are disobedient. All of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Thank God for his forgiveness. Thank God that he separates our sins as far as the east is from the west and remembers them no more. Hey, I'm John Dees, pastor of Cross Point Church, smack dab across the street from the YMCA in Madison. Check us out at cpcfamily.org.
Tom Luganville here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon. An isolated shower certainly can't be ruled out. Most of us probably going to end up staying dry. Temperatures climbing into the low 40s, dropping into the mid and upper 20s as we head into the overnight, early into your Friday morning. Definitely going to be a chilly start to the final day of the work week. A mostly sunny sky Friday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the upper 40s and lower 50s. More cloud cover builds into the Tennessee Valley on Saturday. Temperatures hanging out in the mid 50s. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
And now, a man who knows what you ate for breakfast.
Time now for the biggest thinker of them all.
He knows it all. He is Drew DeArmond. Listen to Drew and Scott Tyson weekday mornings. It's Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Back here with you on the drive. Walking you up to UAH Charger basketball that will tip around 6:30-ish. Wes Neighbors, Drew DeArmond back in the studios of 97.7 ESPN The Zone, and our weekly conversations with Drew brought to you by Environmental Comfort Systems. You can check them out at envcomfort.com. The latest recruiting rankings from 247, Alabama with 9 5-star commitments. Leading the class, I said 9 5-star commitments. You add up 2 and 3 on the list, and that would equal 9. Georgia has 5 5-star commitments. Texas has 4 5-star commitments, but a total of 28 in this class for Alabama. The latest rankings as Bama 1, Georgia 2, Texas 3, Ohio State 4, Oklahoma 5, LSU rounds out the top 6. Tennessee checks in at number 8. But let's start with Alabama, Drew, with the cleanup from next Wednesday. What is that going to look like in Tuscaloosa?
Well, I mean, they've got the top class in the country. They're not going to get caught. I mean, they still had a big miss with Peter Woods, and because he was a in-state kid, 45 minutes from home, big time player. I think the best player in the state of Alabama. But again, they still reacted well and got a lot of great players, including Keon Keeley, who moved up in the rankings. I think he's a consensus top 3 player now, maybe the best defensive player in the country, to take Will Anderson's spot at the edge. Was really impressive at the All-Star games. Caleb Downs, he moved up to the number 6 overall player in the country. A lot of people think he could start at safety in the secondary because Alabama, lost DeMarco Helms. They lost Jordan Battle. They lost Brian Branch, who's probably going to be a first-round draft choice. So there's a lot of playing time available in the secondary. So I think, and then Caden Proctor, he's still a top 10 overall player, one of the top 2 offensive tackles in the country. Really, maybe according to 24/7, I guess the number 1 tackle. So he'll be on campus for the spring. So they certainly, I think, got all their hay in the barn. Most everybody did. There's not many elite prospects. I guess Nicholas Harbor may be the best one, and he's kind of a two-way guy. Also, Deuce Robinson, the tight end. Georgia may very well get Deuce Robinson. Even if they do, I don't think that they're not going to catch Alabama, but it would certainly be a boon because he's another big-time tight end for them to add to the puzzle with Darnell Washington moving on to the NFL. And again, you're only going to get one more year of the Freakazoid. Brock Bowers, he's going to move on, but Deuce also wants to play baseball. He could still be a high baseball draft pick. So even if you sign him, you're not out of the woods yet till the baseball draft in June. So we'll see. He's from Arizona. But Nicholas Harbor, he's a guy that is he's 6'6", 235, 240 pounds, and whatnot. Runs a 4.40 and even under that. He's a defensive lineman. He's from the Baltimore, Maryland area. Plays private school football, but he actually wants to be a big receiver or a tight end. A lot of people think Oregon may lead with Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy. So again, we'll see. But most of the big time guys, besides Deuce and Harbor, are already done. Auburn announced 2 signees that they announced them as signed, but they had really already signed in December. In Tyler Scott, who announced at the Under Armour game, and then of course they also had C.J. Johnson announced too, the safety from Texas, a 4-star. So Auburn actually ended up with a really solid class, considering that 3 or 4 weeks before signing day they were in the 50s, and they end up right now at 17, and that doesn't even count all the portal guys they signed. So their roster has undergone quite a transformation. Certainly, I don't think Hugh Freeze and his staff are done, and even after spring, they still want to address quarterback, unless Lane Kiffin wants 2 more, who knows. But with the way he's collecting them over there, but. Again, I do think Auburn will get a quarterback. I think they would have got Grayson McCall, but his transcript wouldn't allow him to go to another school, so that's why he had to go back to Coastal Carolina. Otherwise, I think he would have been a really nice fit for Auburn. But it also allows Hugh Freeze to take a long look at his quarterbacks already on his roster, especially Ashford.
Is this the best recruiting class that Nick Saban has had in Tuscaloosa?
We won't know until they practice. That kind of drives me nuts when people say that.
Yeah.
On paper, maybe.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they were saying that about the 2 years ago, and half of those guys are
gone.
Have not done well.
That's true.
I think it has the potential to be, but let's wait and pump the brakes until they actually practice, because I'll never forget thinking that Antonio Alfano and Blake Barnett were going to be starters early in their careers, and let's just say neither one of them worked out.
Is Antonio Alfano playing anywhere now?
No, I think he ended up with epilepsy and things of that nature.
Oh, no.
Some issues and health problems.
Right. I will say that of all the players that have been down there, he was the most disappointing I've ever watched.
Yeah, I mean, he was considered.
And it might be because he was sick. He didn't feel good, too. Who knows?
I mean, he and Ayabi Anoma, and because you could see the talent with Ayabi, but the neck
Ayabi Anoma was unbelievable, though. He had a tremendous amount of talent. I wouldn't say that for Alfano. I mean, I watched him. I think he was the biggest guy in the room where he played in the league. And when the other guys were bigger or as big as him, he might have stayed and got better. I've seen it happen, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't even, as I think we talked about with Alfano, he never got above third team.
No, he wasn't. He didn't do but one scrimmage. He was awful in that scrimmage. Yeah. You remember, he pretty much quit. That's what Coach Saban said. I remember
He just said, "I don't know where he is."
Yeah, yeah. Well, then he came out and said he quit later. Yeah.
How much of an impact will we see maybe a Caleb Downs or Caden Proctor? I know he's an offensive lineman, but how much of these guys do you think we're going to see playing significant snaps this fall, Drew?
Well, I mean, I think Caleb Downs has the chance too, just simply because they need guys in the secondary, and if he's as good as I believe he could be, if he's anywhere close to Minka, and I don't even like comparing somebody to Minka, just like I don't like comparing somebody to Derek Thomas, but if he's that kind of player, he'll have a chance. Caden Proctor, whether it be at guard or tackle, is going to have a chance because they've only got 2 full-time starters coming back on the O-line. And then, as I've said too, I definitely think when you look at it, Malik Benson, even though they have some receivers coming back, we have a great source that has told us that he looks like a freakazoid on the practice field. So
is that the junior college dude?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
He'll be receiver 1 next year.
Yeah, that's what we're told, that he has that kind of talent. So I would expect him in spring practice, if he can continue to progress, to have a chance and play. And then C.J. Dupree, the tight end from Maryland, I would watch him as well because Saban takes guys out of the portal for a reason. We'll see with Tresman Marshall. I know he only was a backup at Georgia, but Austin Armstrong helped develop him while he was at Georgia before he went to Southern Miss, and I think he was probably the mastermind behind that portal addition. And Alabama needs some experience at the inside linebacker room with Jihad Campbell and Sean Murphy and these guys needing to improve and get better. So we'll see, but certainly and then, of course, Demoye Kennedy's another guy that went into the portal, but he had torn an ACL too, so he was injured. And then I think even a guy like Justice Haynes. I know Alabama's got a lot of running backs back, but if you listen to the buzz coming from bowl practice, he looked like a freak, and so he could end up forcing his way on the field, much like a Kenyon Drake did, or even somewhat last year, Jamarian Miller. But Jamarian, I think, will have a chance to compete for more meaningful snaps this year.
So, bigger deal just from stepping back and taking a look at this class for Alabama. Would it be next Wednesday cleaning up some things, or when the portal opens back up in May 1st to May 15th?
No, they're not. Alabama won't be signing anybody. I would be very surprised on the 1st. Yeah. I'm not sure Auburn will be either. I think both of them are going to continue to explore the portal. I'm sure Alabama will have some more guys, a few more depart after spring practice if they don't have prominent roles won. And so Alabama will continue to look, I think, for defensive linemen, and we'll see what their defensive coaching staff looks like, because that's a big question. Is it going to be for whom the bell tolls? Is it going to be a lot of familiar old heads? We'll see. If so, I still think a couple of defensive linemen would need to be added, maybe a safety with experience, depending on how these young cats like Caleb Downs do, and Christian Story, some older guys. We'll see. I think they're satisfied with the corners, even with Ricks turning pro. I think Terrion Arnold proved he could play some last year, but he may move inside to nickel. And don't forget Earl Little Jr., his father, of course, was a really nice player in college as well, but he redshirted last year after injuring a shoulder. He'll have a chance to develop, so we'll see. But I do think Alabama will probably even look maybe for an interior offensive lineman, depending on how some of these guys like Jaden Roberts and T.J. Ferguson develop in spring practice. So they'll still be on the look for help at about probably three, maybe 4 positions if they could find the right guy after spring practice.
Don't sleep on Jake Pope if he's healthy.
Yeah, I like that kid at Buford. I think he was totally underrated. I agree, Wes. Great athlete, also a baseball player. He did get a chance just to get his feet wet this year behind guys like Jordan Battle. So he's somebody that's being underrated. That Wes is right. He'll have a chance to compete.
What are you hearing about DC and OC? You kind of hinted on that a little bit. You know what? The music's playing, so let's start with that on the other side of this Sports Center timeout. A scoreboard update for you here live from Rome, as the UAH women are leading it over the Hawks from Shorter, 56-45, 2 minutes and 41 seconds left to go in this game. Sports Center update, and then we will be right back in 3 minutes' time.
Commercial Realty, your source for Alabama commercial real estate. Chapman Commercial Realty has the experience and expertise you're looking for when making commercial real estate decisions. If it's office space, retail space, investment property, or project development, Chapman Commercial Realty is your answer. Call Bill Chapman today at 256-656-8413. That's 256-656-8413. Or find them online at chapmancommercialrealty.com.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
Plus you get WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Frank Reich is the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers, and the lawyers for interim coach Steve Wilks aren't happy about it. Wilks is part of a discrimination lawsuit against the NFL, and his law firm says in a statement today they are shocked and disturbed by Reich's hiring, saying there's a legitimate race problem in the NFL. Bengals and Chiefs on Sunday for the AFC Championship. Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes is hoping he'll be able to play his normal game.
Obviously, I feel like I can still do a lot of things, but it's gonna. We'll see as we get closer and closer, and we'll see during the game. I mean, you can't fully do exactly what you're going to be in those moments in the game, but all I can do is prepare myself the best way possible, and then when we get in the game, you hope adrenaline kind of takes over and you can make those throws when you need to.
Patrick Mahomes. 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan says he expects Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell to play in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles. Both running backs missed practice again today, but McCaffrey says there is 0 chance he will miss Sunday's game. We've got the NBA on ESPN Radio. Coverage now underway for the Knicks and Celtics in Boston. The Celtics have lost 2 in a row, but still have the best record in the league at 35-14. Duke freshman Derek Whitehead is out for Saturday's game at Georgia Tech with a left leg injury. Unclear when he might return. Russian and Belarusian athletes are invited to compete at an upcoming Asian Games, which is a key Olympic qualifier.
You can't ask for more than we're getting for Conference Championship Weekend. You got Brock Purdy against Jalen Hurts in the early game, legacies at stake, and then the main event, Patrick Mahomes against Joe Burrow, will be the place to talk about it. It's screening starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Welcome to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977.
That's how I roll. And I'm not going to drink and drive anymore.
That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Wes and Steve.
Back here for hour number 2. Brandon has showed up here inside the gym.
Here we go. The mayor of Rome has arrived.
He brought a picture of you, sir. He brought a picture of Drew DeArmond framed for Coach Schulman downstairs.
Oh, my goodness. I'll never be allowed to come back to Spraggins now.
He also brought bear claws and cannolis.
Man, Scott's going to be on
y'all
another
have to,
man. Bring me a bear claw.
So he's requesting a bear claw.
Well, hey,
Drew.
Hey, listen.
Yeah, I need a bear claw.
Y'all going to have to buy a bigger car to get home. Y'all keep eating like that.
Drew has, Scott has said the bear claws are being eaten.
Okay,
so,
I'm not surprised. He probably ate 4 already.
So, where were we? OC and DC. Well, what are you hearing the latest in Tuscaloosa?
Well,
Drew?
it's kind of an hourly thing. Jeremy Pruitt bought a Ford truck in Fort Payne and set off a bomb today. Everybody's wanting him to drive it straight to Tuscaloosa. Nothing's been decided. It's still being worked through. I do think he'll be at Alabama in some role. I think ideally, Coach Saban wants him as the DC, but they're vetting everything. They're going to cover themselves. They're certainly going to dot every I, cross every T. We'll see. I mean, I had a guy stop me in the concession line last night, Steve, who I guess recognized me. And, of course, I had my 97.7 The Zone stuff representing too. But he's like, hey, what's up with Pruitt? Can you give me a percentage? And I was like, I can't do that. I can just tell you that as of Tuesday, they talked 11 days in a row, and he's definitely the guy, but they're still working through everything. We'll just have to let it play out and be patient. And, they need him in place for spring practice, but they've got time to work through some things. We'll see. I think he knows what he wants to do on defense from what I've been told, Steve. This morning I was told he's not yet. He thinks the offense needs even more work, and he's trying to get the perfect guy in his mind offensively. And so I don't think it's Jeff Lebby. I know it's not Darth Vader, a.k.a. Dan Mullen. He took himself out of the deal. I think those guys have both been of interest. I don't think Lebby has an offer yet, though. And I think, from what I understand, Coach Saban's been making calls all over the United States trying to vet who he likes and talk to people and decide, what direction offensively he wants to take with the hire.
It does feel like whatever move is made offensively, not a lot of people have been very successful picking who Coach Saban is going to go with
100%.
In the previous years.
I wish I could go back and tell you how many times. I'll never forget. Of course, when everybody was excited about Major Applewhite in 2007 because of his history, we know anybody that's an Alabama fan knows who he was named after. And what his history was, and he grew up an Alabama fan, though he played at Texas. He wasn't offered by DuBose in Alabama. Probably a good thing for his career because they weren't a very good staff. And so he went to play for Mack Brown, had a great career. Remember, he got benched for Chris Sims, though, and probably shouldn't have been. And, because Chris Sims, he had the central casting body, the arm and everything, really didn't have it in the neck up, in my opinion. I think Major did. But Major and Coach didn't mesh, and so he made changes offensively and defensively, and he hired Jim McElwain. And I'll never forget, why the hell are we hiring somebody from Fresno State? But see, what they didn't understand was that Pat Hill was the head coach, and Pat Hill and Saban had a history with Cleveland Browns. And so he trusted Pat Hill, and Pat Hill didn't hold back. He of course, would have liked to have held on to Jim McElwain, who I think had only been there a year after being with the Raiders. But he just understood this is a great opportunity for Coach Mack in his career to work for Nick Saban. And so he's actually, and Coach Mack's the longest tenured offensive coordinator for Coach. He worked for 4 years, from 2008 till 11. And then they went to Doug Nussmeier. That was middling success for 2 years, a national championship, and then the good year in 13. But I think he and Saban personality-wise kind of clashed, so Doug moved on. But again, I just think it's going to be interesting. Lane Kiffin came out of left field. No one saw that coming. I remember hearing that he was consulting during the bowl game, and he was doing more than that because Coach Saban wanted to completely change his offense because of what Gus Malzahn was doing. Now I kind of get the sense that he wants to go back and not go back to tight formations, but go back to RPOs and running the football and being physical. So it's going to be really interesting to see who gets the job. Personally, if I had a choice, because I would want to have the LSU fans just have to go get as many Rolaids as possible and buy out Baton Rouge, is I would love for Joe Brady to be the OC. And then first they lose Saban 16 years ago, and then their savior from 2019 goes with Darth Vader too, and it would probably set off the nerve medication in Baton Rouge.
Would make for an interesting couple shows.
Oh, the SEC Media Days would be unbelievable.
I know. So, McElwain, don't be surprised.
I've heard he's called him before and asked. I mean, Coach Mack is the head coach of Central Michigan. For everybody that doesn't know where Coach Mack is now, but we've seen Dan Enos leave a place like Central Michigan to go to Arkansas. So,
right.
Correct. The coordinator's job is pay a lot of money. Coach Mack and Saban have a good relationship. Coach Mack I know for a fact he still has good relationships with a lot of boosters around Tuscaloosa.
Yes,
really like
no question. Yeah, about that. So, and I think he can help both these quarterbacks.
I would certainly not be opposed to it at all. I think he's already kind of changed the way he plays offense as well. Good coaches always do if you want to stay relevant in the game.
You have a core set of plays that you're going to use. You have a philosophy, but you got to fit your offense to the players you have.
Mm-hmm. It's just, does Coach Mack, it is a pressure cooker at Alabama. Does Coach Mack want to come back to Tuscaloosa when Nick Saban's on the back end of his career, which he was not when he came the first time. And Coach Mack was younger, trying to work his way up the ladder, and had a negative experience at Florida when they basically, he wanted several things done with the program that weren't done by Jeremy Foley before he retired.
So I did want to transition. You mentioned a little bit of Auburn in our last segment. Could things have gone any better for Auburn since hiring Hugh Freeze? It feels like everything's falling into place quite nicely considering this quick turnaround, Drew.
Well, I can answer a little bit of that. They haven't played a game yet.
Right.
The honeymoon.
No, I'm talking about the portal and
I
the
think he's recruiting better, yeah. But is he going to be able to win in the West next year?
And the big thing is too, just to quote The Rock, they when he rock bottomed somebody, that's where they were under Brian Harsin. They were at rock bottom in recruiting, and now it's a lot better. But of course, it couldn't do anything but go up because Harsin didn't even understand the importance of a junior day in the SEC, and certainly Hugh Freeze does.
So do you think, Drew? I mean, that. He didn't recruit hard at where he was
Not
before
hard enough.
Boise State.
Well, he didn't have. The best way to put it at Boise is, there was a lot of really good players on the West Coast that would come to him, especially that are that kind of caliber player in that league. He had the most talented roster all the time in the Mountain West Conference. They sort of came to him, at least from people like, I have a friend of mine, my brother does, who he went to graduate school with, who is a humongous Boise State fan. I mean, this is, and he actually was thanking Auburn when they hired Harsin away because he felt like Harsin underachieved with the talent that he had at Boise because they developed guys, but they didn't really. In other words, what he felt like is he felt like the program slipped after Chris Peterson left. And Chris Peterson was a cutting-edge guy, and Harsin just rode his coattails, is what he thought. And he was not surprised when he flopped at Auburn. Let's just put it that way.
Well, it looked like he was going to do real good, and it didn't take long for the wheels to come off.
No, it didn't. Because remember, he was like 6-2 the first year.
Oh yeah, it was shades of glory. Yeah.
And then when they blew that lead against
they beat Ole Miss too.
Yeah, they beat Ole Miss like a yard dog.
But it was when their quarterback get hurt that turned that game too.
Yeah, and they blew that up Mississippi State game.
Right.
I think they were up 28-3.
Will Auburn be trying to get another quarterback when the portal opens up again in May?
They have to get somebody because they don't have any experience, even if Ashford does play well. Because they have to have somebody. Holden Geriner, he's a redshirt freshman. They signed the Liberty kid. They flipped the Liberty kid. I believe it's Hank Campbell before signing day. He's a developmental quarterback. And then I think they have one other kid. Well, and technically they've got T.J. Finley, the weirdest thing I've ever seen. He's going through spring practice, but then graduating and very likely leaving because he's 6'6". He's got a howitzer gun arm. Yeah, I mean that's what I've been told by Brian Matthews, Jason Caldwell, people I trust, people that have been covering that team for 20 years. Is what they understand is he's staying in school. He was going to graduate in May, but he's going to go through workouts and even try to go through some of spring practice, I guess, just to stay sharp. But I think Hugh Freeze knows that he's not staying. And I think Hugh really likes Ashford, honestly. Hugh Freeze wants to see what he can do with Robbie Ashford in his system. And, I think he wanted Spencer Sanders, but Spencer Sanders was – for whatever reason, I think Ole Miss was aggressive. They probably put together a better NIL deal with all this kind of stuff. But I think Hugh Freeze was also thinking, okay, I can take a long look at Robbie Ashford, and then there's going to be other quarterbacks on the move after spring practice. And I'll be able to snag somebody. And so let's just take a long look at Ashford, who had a solid year. And Hugh fancies himself as a quarterback whisperer, and I really think he is more so than Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is more of a offensive guru. He's not really a quarterback coach, but Hugh is. And Hugh thinks, just like he has done before with former Auburn quarterbacks, we've already seen that, he thinks he can make a good player out of Ashford.
I'm just fascinated on T.J. Finley going through spring. That's interesting.
Well, you got to look. Malik Willis became a good player under Hugh Freeze. He was not very good under Gus. See, another thing, though. Gus Malzahn is not a quarterback whisperer. Gus Malzahn is Lane Kiffin with a visor on of a different color. They're the same. All they're doing is scheming. They're not I'll be honest, Gus doesn't develop players at any position. He just plugs guys in that fit and can build an offense around them. If you look at player development under Gus Malzahn,
trick you.
Yeah, look at Gus's players that go into the NFL. They usually don't do very well. And it's kind of like Art Briles. Art Briles was the same way. Art Briles was an offensive mastermind, but not a developer. Steve Sarkisian is a developer. That's why Mac Jones became such a good quarterback, because of what Sark did. And see, that's why Lane Kiffin and Sark were a great combination at USC. Lane could scheme, and so can Sark, but Lane is the ultimate schemer and play caller, and Sark is the developer, and they complemented each other.
Very true.
But of course, if you had done a reality TV show off of it, it would have been a disaster, but that's another story for another day.
They recorded with each other on that, too, though, unfortunately.
Oh, boy.
A disaster according to who? I wouldn't certainly be a disaster for the producers.
Oh, they bounced back, man. I'm telling you. They're both making buku money. I mean, Lane Kiffin is the king of Oxford. Just ask Brett Norsworthy.
Oh, yeah. Plug-and-play players up in Knoxville. What kind of class is Heupel getting, you think, up in Knoxville?
I mean, they've done a great job. I mean, they got Nico Iamaleava. It'll be interesting. Joe Moulton, the first two series, they go 3 and out. They'll be wanting him in there. But they signed some really good players. They signed a consensus top 10, top 12 class. They got some, really nice skill players in there. They've done a good job developing wide receivers since he's gotten there. They think they can develop more with that system, and certainly you couldn't bet against them. They got, a 5-star defensive lineman that, Georgia and Alabama recruited really hard out of the state of North Carolina that, it was a late bloomer in David Hobbs, so he could make an impact. And Rodney Garner probably didn't get enough credit for how he develops defensive linemen, and he's over there for the second time doing a nice job. So I think and then they got Arion Carter, late from Alabama, away from Alabama, big-time linebacker. So I think they did a nice job, and certainly there's going to be a lot of expectations next year. Now, a lot of guys they've lost to the NFL, but the one thing I'll say about, Josh Heupel's staff is they have developed players, because he took over a disaster 2 years ago, and to think that he's already won 11 the second year is pretty stunning. But now the key is to be able to feed the beast, and you're not going to be able to sneak up on people again.
In terms of fit, there is a lot of replacing that needs to be done, not only in Knoxville, but I would say Ole Miss, certainly Arkansas. There's a lot of changeover at Texas A&M. How about fit-wise? What class has the best fit in the SEC?
I mean, that's a great question. Certainly, I think Georgia's recruiting at as high a level as they would like. I mean, they certainly didn't overtake Alabama, but if they get Deuce Robinson, for example, that's one of the studs they could get this coming Wednesday on the 1st. I think they've met a lot of their needs. They continue to recruit well on the offensive and defensive lines and build their program from the inside out. One thing they haven't had so far is staff turnover. Now, we'll see what happens after the signing day. Does Todd Monken go to the NFL? If he doesn't, they're probably going to have Monken back. So far, they've got their staff intact. We'll see if that continues. But they've had a lot of continuity, and they had a young football team. That's pretty stunning to say, considering that they've won back-to-back national championships. But they've stacked recruiting classes, and just talking to their guys like Brooks Austin, they've signed 3 really good inside backers. Glenn Schumann's been recruiting lights out, and so when you're the king, you tend to recruit well. And Georgia's the king right now, and I think they've really, and then don't forget the 2 receivers they added in the transfer portal, which is one reason why A.D. Mitchell left to go to Texas. But still, they added 2 really good receivers in the transfer portal to try to give them more explosiveness, and now they're going to have a spirited quarterback battle among former 4 and 5 stars in the spring.
Drew, thank you so much. Always great insight. What's on tomorrow? I know there's a fairly big game in our area tomorrow night.
There certainly is, Steve. It's going to be the rematch of Huntsville High and Grissom. Get there early because there won't be much parking, and there will not be a whole lot of of seating left. As you know, you'll be doing the game for ETV. But Grissom and Huntsville, and we will hear from both head coaches, as Jack Doss is going to join us at 8 o'clock. Christian Swears will join us at 8:30. So we are going to have some outstanding high school basketball conversations. So should be a lively talking ball, and I'm sure there will be plenty of videos and pictures from the outing at Rome, Georgia, over at Shorter. And I hope that John Schulman gets a win, considering that he's been given a picture of me, because if he doesn't, he's going to think I'm cursed.
Well, I was told during this segment that I have to eat a cannoli, So,
get ready for a sugar bomb.
It's not like they're going to have to hold you down and feed it to you.
No. Well, I'll tell you, after lunch, it's probably going to make the trip home for me. I'm pretty well stuffed, Wes. But
y'all be careful.
Thank you so much. Let's take our one and only timeout. We'll head into our coverage of UH Charger basketball. Tip-off is 10 minutes away.
Log on today, 977ESPN.com. You're listening to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Hi, Bobby White back again for Woody Anderson Ford, inviting you to kickstart the new year with 0% interest. We've got financing as low as 0% APR for 36 months on 2022 and 2023 models of F-150, Explorer, Edge, and Escape. Plus, there's an extra $1,000 bonus cash on F-150 XLT. Come on in to Woody Anderson Ford today and choose from over 100 F-150s and nearly 50 Explorers. I bet you can find exactly what you're looking for. And we've also got longer-term financing as low as 4.9% for up to 72 months. It's available on 2022 F-150, Explorer, Edge, Escape, and Mustang. With your good credit, these offers are through Ford Motor Credit. Offers end January 31st. At Woody Anderson Ford, we'd be glad to walk you through the online ordering, too. Plus, you'll get $1,000 bonus cash. Come see us and let's get 2023 off to a great start. Woody Anderson Ford, Jordan at Sparkman. Hope to see you soon.
When was the last time you changed the oil in your car? You probably know the answer to that without having to think too hard. When was the last time you've had your home's air conditioning system checked? If the answer is, I've never done that before, you should listen to the rest of this commercial. Your home's heating and cooling system is very likely the most expensive appliance you have. You've got your refrigerator, you got your washer and dryer, your TV, and other electronic devices. None of these items come close to the investment you have in your home's heating and cooling system. And what's even more startling is your home's comfort system uses more energy than all of your other appliances combined. Become a member of the Environmental Comfort Systems Comfort Care Club, and we'll make sure your home's comfort system is operating the way it's supposed to. So give Environmental Comfort Systems a call today. We are your independently owned American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, or visit our website at envcomfort.com. Alabama license number 92314. Environmental Comfort Systems.
When I chose a garage door company, I did my homework. I needed Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. They have a 5-star Google rating. I checked their reviews and liked what their customers had to say. Precision Overhead Garage Door has lifetime warranty packages. Same-day service if I call before 2 p.m. If they can't make it the same day, my service call fee the next day is waived. They did a 25-point safety inspection on the door and operator. Now that's peace of mind. Residential, commercial, and gate services. Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. Call 256-400-4500.
Not looking or feeling your best? No energy for the things you like to do? Ready to look and feel younger? Make your appointment at Advanced Life Clinic, one of the region's foremost destinations for patients interested in looking and feeling their best. Specializing in advanced laser treatments and weight loss, male and female